The COVID-19 pandemic has led to a resurgence in Australian-made and manufactured products. Made in Australia is making a post-pandemic comeback as some businesses turn back the clock on decades of offshoring jobs. Manufacturers looking to avoid supply chain turmoil caused by COVID-19 are leading the charge, supporting local employees in the process. In this special multi-part series, we explore the story of a trailblazing Melbourne entrepreneur who supported 22 Victorian businesses, creating a clothing line with a 100% local supply chain. Kate Dillon, founder of Shearline, has taken her small business to new levels in the midst of Melbourne's 2020 lockdown, putting small businesses at task for the launch of her new range of sweaters. Forming an end-to-end all-Australian supply chain, Kate has raised awareness of the underutilised skills and experience that still exists within Australian manufacturers. Thank you, Kate, for joining us here at the studio this morning.
Thank you for having me, Rivda.
Pleasure. Now, Kate, you're the founder of Shearline bags, which was established 6 years ago. What exactly is it that you do, and how did you come up with the concept of creating sweatshirts?
Well, as you say, we make handbags for working women, so they have distinctive compartments for everything that you need to take to and from the office, primarily tech and chargers, 2 phones. I don't know, I'm sure you would have experienced that Mary Poppins moment where you walk into a meeting and have to find the one thing that you need to find quickly and can't.
Yeah.
So we solve that problem. But as it happens, COVID started in March 2019 and largely stopped commuting for people because everybody was working from home. And we primarily solved the problem of organising your office to and from the commuting experience. So that was a massive blow for Sheila, because it turns out people don't actually need a beautiful function bag to organise their work gear to move from the kitchen to the home office. So yeah, I mean, I was at home in lockdown like everybody was. I'd had a child in December 2019, and my second, and so I was at home with a 3-year-old and a newborn.
Yeah.
And my team and I were really distressed about how many small businesses were really hurting, and we wanted to do something like ourselves we were hurting. We needed to do something to save the business, and we knew we needed to do something quickly.
Yeah.
And you know, freight and logistics had increased in costs a lot. Our sales had diminished obviously a lot because the product and the need for our product had largely disappeared.
Yeah.
And so we knew we wanted to do something that was wholly Australian made, and I'm an avid fan of the slogan top, and often was wearing slogan tops at home with my kids just to give myself a spring in my step, and thought, you know, if we could make something that was end-to-end Australian made, every single element, that would be an amazing project, and ideally we could gather other small businesses like ourselves, as many as we could. That would be an inspiring new product line to add to Sheila, and it would be completely on brand. It would be about having something that was premium and practical, something that was really beautiful and elegant, and something that absolutely inspired bold ambition and for people to walk fearlessly and feel empowered.
So walk us through it then. How many businesses were involved within that supply chain from start to finish in creating those tops?
22 in total.
It's amazing.
And they're the people. Then there was probably 20 that physically touch the product, and then you've got the PR and marketing as well. But they are also targeted for the product. But there were 20 specifically that physically touched the garment, businesses.
Did you expect that number to be that large?
No. But I think part of that is because we were targeting small businesses, and we're a small business. So I think a lot of larger businesses would have many of those people in-house already in different roles. And because we were targeting small businesses and specialist makers that were largely all based in Melbourne, that's why there ended up being as many as there were. But it was just such a fantastic experience, and everybody really got behind the concept. And sourcing in Australia is surprisingly difficult.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate that because people were so passionate about the project, it was all about cross-referring and suggesting other contacts.
So how long did that take? How did you manage to find the right clients and customers in terms of how did you manage to source that?
Well, I had originally worked for quite a large fashion house when I was studying at law school, and an amazing fashion house that manufactures here, and I knew the garment manufacturer that they had used, not personally, but I knew the name.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like 15 years ago. And cold called them in lockdown and said, hey, I used to work at this label. I know you manufacture for them. Is there any chance you'd be interested in this? And the owner, Phil Scorsis of CGT Australia, he thought the idea was really great, and he ended up spending like over 2 hours, like, you know, or longer, I think, within the whole process, completely opening his book of contacts, saying, you know, if you want to do this, you go here. If you want to do that, you go here. Try this, but make sure you don't do that. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Like, just completely blown away by the generosity of spirit and the time that he was willing to give to me, because he believed in the project. And yeah, from there it grew. I reckon he gave me probably 10 to 15 different people to contact.
Yeah.
And then each of those people that I spoke to would give me other people to contact.
Yeah.
And it grew from there.
So, Kate, you helped bring back local jobs really by doing this.
I hope that I've brought awareness to that. I'm a small business, but I really hope that I've brought awareness and brought manufacturing again into the spotlight. I am by no means the first company to do Australian-made fashion, but I understand through the process that it is actually quite unique that we've done every single element in Australia. That is the unique piece, and the purpose of that absolutely was initially to support jobs and to support other businesses that were in pain. But the added benefit has been that I have gained an insight into Australian manufacturing that I didn't realise, and I feel so passionate about sharing that knowledge with everybody else that's outside of the fashion industry, because I think they should know. And it makes such a big impact on the Australian economy. Small business itself is like 97% of all business. But then when you're talking about fashion and industry, there's a recent report that the Australian Fashion Council put together with EY, and just in the last financial year, $27 billion has been contributed to our economy from Australian makers and Australian fashion. So that is a really big, diverse ecosystem of people. That's just that's not just designer labels. That's like textiles and you know, pattern makers and garment manufacturers and retailers and the education area. And gosh, the ecosystem is huge, componentry, and it's just massive. And there are so many jobs that could be picked up and grown, and the growth is just astronomical if we really wanted to focus on that. And I feel like this project has like brought that to the fore. So hopefully that there's more funding from government and infrastructure and support around that, because, you know, if we can bring the jobs back here and support Australians, that's the end game. That's what we want. And COVID has forced our hand to innovate in this space, and I think that's necessary, and you know, people need to know.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Kate, what are some of the lessons that you learned through this experience by bringing back the manufacturing and tapping into that market?
Oh, there are so many lessons. I was very naive going into it, even though I have a strong background in manufacturing overseas. I think actually seeing every single technical element being done here in Australia really opens your eyes to the many, many different processes that are involved in bringing a garment to life. And I think it really opens your eyes to having much greater control and awareness over the responsibility and ethical and sustainable pieces that are involved in bringing a garment to life. And then also actually understanding how many hands touch a garment and how many jobs you can support, even if you're just one person buying one thing that does cost a bit more, that will last longer, is actually paying so many different people ethically. An Australian wage is something that, you know, can make you feel good. Just a small thing, but it has a big impact.
Did you now go and see them in person, these different manufacturers?
Oh, absolutely.
And who are they? Are they second, third generation, or are they new to the game?
Mostly second and third generation, yeah, and they felt like family, honestly. I had started the concept in July 2020, and then we didn't launch until June 2021. I'd had a sick child that pushed us out a little bit. He's fine now. Probably took about 10 months from concept to online sale, but 12 months officially to launch. And I didn't meet anybody in the flesh until late January, early February. And honestly, it was like going in and giving these people a hug. Like, these people feel like family to me. Like amazing, generous people, like Ralph Bonadio from Top Knit Fabrics, like was so patient with answering so many questions that I have about how to create the fabric and how he was weaving things and the type of quality that I wanted to achieve and the thickness, the GSM, and how much elastin was in it, and being incredibly patient with going through all of that with me, and sending swatches by courier, and goodness, all sorts of things. And then the pattern maker, Ella from Cloth Creative, just amazing, like multiple text messages and videos about how to actually measure things myself, because I didn't know how to do that. And then obviously Phil and Vicky Scorsis from CGT are absolutely above and beyond with how much time they have spent in completely skilling me up in garment construction and understanding fabrics and what will work and what won't work, and then creating all of these amazing other connections for me. And then Val and Glenys Kirps from the industrial screen printers, and organising the embroiderers. They're also been amazing with soundboarding, the business concept and working out pricing and how to, figure everything out and the other elements and pulling all that together. Just honestly, I could talk to you for ages about all the different people, but blown away. And how appreciative were they to have such a new project on their hands as well? I think they were thrilled because they understood that it was about raising awareness for Australian manufacturing and for really supporting local and putting your money where your mouth is type thing, and demonstrating this is the impact that we could have. And if we had the ability to really encourage businesses from like a government level to bring on new apprentices and to have incentives around that, and to bring in more incentives around succession planning to make sure that really is fostered. And then obviously we need more componentry, and we need to bring back a whole lot of the actual machinery that we don't have here anymore. And then just generally, I think some funding and around education and infrastructure generally for manufacturing, because it's obviously hugely expensive to open a factory. I feel like there should be a real push, because it will make such a big impact on the economy and such a big impact on so many people's livelihoods and jobs. Yeah.
Now, Kate, we're about to kickstart this new series about those manufacturers who you dealt with as part of this project. What exactly can we expect going forward within the next few episodes about them?
You will hear the most inspiring stories about these people. They are the humans behind the business, the heart and soul behind the business. They tell you these amazing stories about where the fashion industry was 20 years ago and how that's transformed, how so much of it has gone overseas, and how COVID has kind of shaken that up a little bit and started a trend of bringing it back. They have so many amazing ideas about how to make sure that is embedded going forward. They're stories of grit, they're stories of resilience, they're stories of very, very powerful dedication to their business, and it's well worth the watch.
So manufacturing is in a way being revived, you'd say?
I hope so, yes, I hope so.
What else could we do? I mean, you've touched base on, apprenticeships and government funding and whatnot. What else? How can we raise the awareness for the newer generations coming on board, for the newer kids on the block?
I think it's about actually knowing that there are these people that do manufacture these things, and there are makers here, and the capabilities and skills that we do have in Australia. I think it's difficult to know where to look, because there's not like necessarily one specific place that's really easy to find people. I know the Fashion Council is building this amazing directory of makers and textile manufacturers and designers online, but we need a whole lot more people to register on there so that they can be found and be known about. I think that's a big piece. I think, and then the whole education piece about people wanting to buy local and support local and understanding what's involved to make a garment so they understand the pricing structure.
So about the pricing structure, what have you learned? What is the difference between an item being so expensive or so cheap and manufactured in Australia? What is the difference?
The amount someone is paid, the labour costs. Yeah, absolutely. I think people, myself included, we've got used to buying things at a much cheaper price, and that ties in with the whole fast fashion piece, which isn't sustainable either. I think, going forward with everything that's happening with climate change and all the crazy things that are happening in the world at the moment with COVID and everything else, I think that there is a real focus now on the circular economy and understanding what our carbon footprint is and being able to make sure what we're making is more environmentally friendly and looking more towards a slow fashion model, and bringing that awareness around how a garment is made back into Australia. And by doing that, it does increase the cost, but it lasts so much longer, and it's ideally not going to end up in landfill. So I think that that's all beneficial.
Now, where are you at with Shearline? So what else is new in store or coming up?
Well, we're really excited to be releasing a washed black version of the sweatshirt soon, which will be exciting. They're going to have a glitter print on them, so something a little bit extra, which is great. And yeah, we've been thrilled with the response. It's just been magical, to be honest. Our first run sold out really quickly, and our second run, the pre-order is sold out as well. So yeah, it's just waiting to get everything back onto online again, because we are slow fashion. It takes a couple of weeks to pull everything together, but it's absolutely worth the wait. It's the most beautiful product, and it's so comfortable, and I know it's going to last a long time. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to see you in the flesh and to hear of your journey here in the studio with us.
Thank you for having me and for helping amplify this important message. I really appreciate that on behalf of all of us in the supply chain. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.